All right. So I'm just going to go over this business lesson with y'all, record it, and hopefully, guys, get some value out of it as well. All right. So, right here, like I said, this is basically my learning curve on paper, and I'm about to explain it to you guys, right? Because we were going over the month of this last month data, right? So, this is the first month that I started recording data, right? And like I said, I remember during this is June. I was just doing it because it's what my mentor told me to do, right? I didn't really understand why I was doing it. It didn't make sense to me. It seemed very unnecessary for me to have like this spreadsheet and I'm typing this in every day. It's like, dude, just in my head I'm thinking like just call the leads and you just wholesale and like just call the leads, make the dials. But right. So I'm thinking that, but at the same time, I'm like, bro, I just paid this man $12,000. I'm about to do whatever the hell he tells me to do. And I'm just not going to question it because I'm not going to waste my $12,000. So this month, I just start this. It's just basically basic tracking. Didn't even track it that well at first, I kind of struggled with it as well because, it's a learning curve. This is when I like didn't understand this. Like, why am I tracking this spreadsheet? Seems so complicated and unnecessary. Da da da. Da. You could actually see the list that I was pulling as well. Right. And I actually did close a deal this month, but it obviously it's from the month prior of like just momentum of me working. So this, so actually this is July. I'm sorry. This is the end of July. So like I said, August, this is the first month when I was like, okay, I'm gonna take it serious because I paid him $12,000. But also I want to learn business, right? So as I was tracking these and having my weekly meetings with, Chandler and his coach, he started trying to teach me a little bit about why it's so important to track these numbers, right? At first, I had like a basic kindergarten education of numbers, which I figured out on my own, right? The KPIs with Zillow, 20 conversations, 3 offers, one contract a week. Well, I was graduating now, and now I'm in college, and now I'm taking college classes on KPIs and really just on business. So this is the month. August was the first month that I actually stopped looking at wholesale real estate as a hustle and like a just a cool free way for me to make money, and I started looking at it as an actual business, like a business and a machine. And so this entire month, I took it serious. I took it very serious. I made sure to track everything. I tracked all of my expenses. I tracked every single list, and I kept track of my offers, all that, my responses, all that. And then I figured also out, you know, this was through SMS. So I had to figure out what is a new lead. What I had to define what a new lead was, what a response counts as, what is a delivered, what is my delivery rate. I was using Roar at the time, right? Most people don't know a lot about Roar and how Roar is very, very overpriced and it scams beginners, but it doesn't really scam them. It's actually very, very good. I like Roar. But if you don't know what you're doing, you will end up spending a lot of money. That's why people refer to it as, for beginners, right? But as I was getting my college education in business and numbers, I was able to question and dig deep into what is a total cent. And I actually went into my Roar account, went into my settings, and I started pulling reports. I didn't know I could do all that. I could pull reports of the data from my actual software and see this is what I'm being charged for, right? At first, it's like, so total sends, right? I mean, sends, how many text messages you send out, and then the expenses. Okay, so if you divide this by this or whatever, you get a certain number. But really, it's deeper than that, right? This is how much my expenses were in total for the day in outbound and inbound text, responses and automatic responses. And every text is technically, I think it's 122 characters. So if I sent a text that was 140 characters, I would be charged for two texts. You don't know all that shit in the beginning. All you know is that you're texting and you want a deal. So now I started to see, okay, right? So I only started to do all that during this month. So during this month, I'm aware that I'm overspending, right? Because I wanted to up my text that I send, right? I was like, okay, well, if we're doing this much from this many texts, well, then we need to just send out more text. We just need more leads, right? So I just started upping the marketing costs. And you could see that, right? It went from whatever 190, 240 to now it's every day is 300 and then eventually went to like 420, things like that, right? Every single day I'm spending 200 to 300 to 400 to $430 a day. But I'm doing this. Everybody's looking at me probably like I'm crazy, but I'm doing this knowing that I have a college education that I'm in, taking classes in, and I have a mentor by my side. And I know that if I spend this money, I will be able to have the data to then tweak what I need to tweak. So I'm blowing all of this money on marketing. I wouldn't say blowing it, but I'm spending a lot of money in marketing, knowing that I'm spending too much, but I'm doing it so that at the end of the 30 days or at the end of the month, I will have a full 30 days or 31 days of data that I could then go off of and tweak. So you could see like I started up and paying more, sending out more texts, 5,000, right? Started off at like 3,000, 1,000, 2,000, but then 5,000, right? My response rate, what does a response count for? Like, what is an actual response? What are the new leads actually? What does that count? The appointments, right? Then we started learning about appointments. Uh, I was also in the middle of changing sales processes during this month, right? So Eric Klein has a different sales process than Chandler Sane. Chandler Sane has the appointment closer setup sales process. Eric Klein just has the closer setup. It goes straight from cold caller to closer. Chandler Sane, it goes from cold caller to lead manager to acquisition manager, aka closer. Right? So we were dealing with that. We were dealing with that. But I, like I said, I paid a mentor, so I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do. So Ian, my lead manager, he's going to be my appointment setter. I'm going to be the closer, and we just started doing that. So a lot of changes, but I'm saying all this to say like the main point I'm teaching you guys is this is the next level of business. Uh, a lot of people they struggle just to fill out a KPI sheet with fucking 3 KPIs. How many conversations are you having? How many offers are you making? And how many contracts did you get signed a week? Some people have a hard time just tracking that. And I understand, I get it. I was there. I had to overcome that. But that's the first mastery. You're everything. Those are your numbers. Track them. And then see how many offers it takes to a contract and how many contract it takes to a deal. Right? Things like that. How many offers to a deal? How many offers to a contract? How many contracts to a deal? Things like that. But this is the next level. Now, right? I'm telling you, in July is when I was going through that. Like, this seems pointless. This seems extra. This seems unnecessary. But I paid to pay attention. I'm not going to pay somebody $12,000 to not pay attention. So, boom, went through the learning curve. This month I took it serious, right? I'm overspending, but I'm being aware and conscious that I'm overspending so I could have more data. So, boom, and I'm keeping track of all this, right? This month I closed no deals, right? And I closed, yeah, so I made $9,000 a month before. I think I probably made more. But in here, these
Your
expenses,
sharing.
huh?
Your screen's not sharing no more.
Oh, sorry. Sharing my screen with Zoom though. So thanks for telling me that. So these expenses were just what roar. These expenses were just on the texting platform. Like, so these were not all of my expenses. So I remember specifically this month I spent about $15,000 this month. That's for skip tracing. What else? That's for I was paying for the CRM, a new CRM. I paid for skip tracing. I was paying for, all these other things. I was paying for new data. I was, trying to get, different softwares. There's a bunch. But anyways, I ended up spending $15,000. But I only tracked what Roar was charging me. And that's very important, right? Because this is what I wanted to have control over. My marketing spend. Like what, skip chasing got in there later, as you could see. I started filling this out later. But in the beginning, like keep it simple. I'm on this level, right? So boom, now that I have that month of data, I was able to analyze all of this data in a nutshell, right? This is the first month I was able to do this and think like a business owner. And I was able to see, okay, and project what can I do next month? This is what I want to do next month. What needs to happen in order to do that? So there's a list of things, right? So after I analyze this data, boom, boom, boom. I went over what was what, why everything was. I did my investigating and I figured out, okay, my cost per lead is too much. Well, for what I was doing. Um, the leads weren't all of them were leads, things like that. But the main point, right? This is just the beginning, my first month. The main thing I wanted to do was if I could just keep all this shit the same and just lower my expenses, then I did a good job. Like that's what I wanted to tweak. That was my first tweak in my first me using my college education muscles of business was like, okay, how can I tweak my expenses to where I'm still texting the same amount of people, still getting the same amount of responses, still getting the same leads, still making the same offers, all this stuff, but I'm just spending less to do it. Right. And you could see the day that I did that, the price decreased significantly. I went from spending fucking $400 to $500 a day to $100 a day for the same amount of texts. There was a to-do list that I had to do, right? Right. So this day I stopped texting because I was like, sometimes you got to work your priorities. Like, okay, fuck that. We're not doing this or something. Oh, we just didn't have anything. I was gonna say sometimes you gotta say fuck everything else right now. I gotta figure this out. So that could be taken care of later. Right. And that's how it was. I had to stop focusing on, I had to take time of my day to stop focusing on making offers and focusing on how can I get my expenses down. I had to learn how to be a business owner now. I'm not just a closer and a hustler anymore. I'm learning business. So I had to trust Ian. Thank God I met Ian, he was like one of my very first students, my lead manager. He held it down. He held it down. He was helping me. It was just me and him, just two people doing this. He held it down while I was figuring out how to be a business owner. While he was figuring out how to be a closer, I was figuring out how to be a business owner. And it just worked out. We just helped each other like that. Sometimes, that's how relationships work. Like it's a mutual benefit, right? Genuine mutual benefit, win-win. Anyways, so while I figured that out, boom, I dropped my cost nearly two-thirds. Literally, I dropped my cost by two-thirds with damn near the same amount of text being sent out. Yep, damn near the exact same, right? Now, here's the thing though, my leads went down. Why though? Is because I learned how to filter them. I learned how to filter them. I started filtering, so the appointments and everything went down. So I wasn't the offers were still up, right? Uh, because I'm still making offers. I think from old leads is what I'm learning. I can't remember. And then I got one contract signed. So these numbers kind of went down, right? Which I didn't like, but I brought these numbers down significantly, which I did like. So now it's just a matter of okay, let's keep these numbers. So now I fucking that's the gist of like the lesson I'm trying to teach is like you have to work for a certain amount of time in order for you to even have data. And you need to track what you do every single fucking day in order for you to even be able to track the data, to even have data. That's the point of this. Of like this is my learning curve of how I learned. So you guys could skip this learning curve or you guys could learn it earlier than me of like you have to track things. First, you have to figure out what to track, right? What do you track? Guys, here's the awesome part. You don't have to figure that shit out because this isn't a new business model. It's offers and conversations and contract signed. That's what you need to track. This isn't a new fucking business model where or you're making up a business model or you're having an invention where you need to figure out the key performance indicators. No, they're given to you. Learn to track those three things every single day for 90 days. One, I guarantee that you'll get a deal. Two, if you do that every day for 60 to 90 days, I guarantee you'll get a wholesale deal. Two, once you have that data, now you could see how many offers it takes to get a contract, or how many offers it takes to get a deal, how many contracts it takes to get a deal. I found out that on average, when you're getting your first wholesale deal, if you make 3 offers, 20 conversations, and 1 contract a week, right, over a 90-day period, on average, right, your results may vary, but on average, it takes about 9 contracts before you get your first deal, right? And that happens typically around day 60 to 70. I'm only able to know that because I did that shit myself and then I taught other people that shit and then I studied their data. So this is the point. If you want to be a business owner, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to stop fucking thinking like a fucking brokey and think, I just need to make money, right? That's a good thing. You do need to make money, but think of it at a high level. It's hard to think that way when, especially whenever whatever culture you're from or environment you're from. I come from a drug addict background, and like so Ian knows too. Like I think Ian told me as well. Like we have addictive personalities, so when we do something, we go all the way, right? So I had to change from being all the way about drugs to all the way about business, and now I'm obsessed, and it's it's so amazing and fascinating. Like this fascinates me. This literally inspires me. It's just like the numbers and shit. Why though? It aligns with this archetype of this person I said I was going to be from day one when I said I was going to change my life around. When you look at the top billionaires, millionaires, Kevin O'Leary, Elon Musk, whoever, Donald Trump, whatever, and you look at the language that they speak and the things that they just know from common sense, their type of common sense, it's like, okay, they know how to speak numbers. So from the beginning, I knew, especially when I started watching Chandler saying shit, right? Because at first I was always motivation, Andy Elliott, Eric Klein, sales, motivation, discipline, which is good and a foundation. But then I was like, okay, what the fuck is the like these guys are fat, right? There's like billionaires who are fat. There's like billionaires who are scrawny. And like there's billionaires with no fucking discipline and like no. So I'm like, okay, what's really like the thing, the common factor between these two millionaires? What's the common factor between these two multimillionaires? They know their numbers. That's the common factor between every fucking millionaire. It doesn't matter if you're fat, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. It's like skinny, tall, lazy, disciplined. They just know their numbers. I'm telling you guys, this is how you know your numbers, right? How do you know your numbers though? That's the first lesson. Before that is raw action. Take raw action and get used to to tracking your raw action. That way, after a certain period of time, you could literally measure yourself and you could literally measure your results and you could literally say, I got better this month. I got better this month. You could literally say at the end of the year, I got better this year. And you could see what you got better at and how much you got better at it. This is what Atomic Habits is all about. And this is what the book Traction is all about. Anyway, so boom, I brought these just to wrap this up to show you guys like I brought these numbers down drastically, right? And then now the goal was, well, this is when I stopped texting. So I eventually stopped texting. That's for another day, another story. But once I got these down, right, now it was just a matter of, okay, how can I bring these numbers up while still keeping the price down, right? That was the next tweak that I was going towards. Wow, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like that month, like I still got the same amount of leads, still made the around the same amount of offers, and I closed a deal, and I got another deal sold, and I got 4 contracts signed. So, so I mean, I guess yeah, in a nutshell, what I said I wanted to happen did actually happen, right? These numbers stayed the same, while these numbers even went further down. How that happened, I can't remember. I would have to look at my notes. But this is the point, guys. So it went from, you know, if you guys go on my in the Discord server, right? You go on the student chat, which is free, open to the general public. You go in here, you click on pin messages right here. You scroll down a little bit, go to some of the older messages, and you look at this. This is where it started. This is where it started. Like, guys, if you guys like, it's a learn. Some people look at me and they're like, "Where? How do you do it?" And it's like, bro, I can't tell you how to fucking do it. There's no fucking secret. You just got to start. At least I'm giving you the secret sauce and like the mentality of like now you know what to focus on. Like at least you know what to focus on, right? Like numbers. Get good at tracking numbers. These are KPIs that I kept up. This was my life. How many offers I made, how many conversations I made, how many YouTube shorts and YouTube videos I made, and how many Instagram and Facebook posts I made. Right? And I have clear definitions for what each of those are, but this was my life. I locked myself in a room and I made this my entire life. Right? So I had no choice but to, right? And then I had to figure out like first before it got to this, it was something else. It was still this whiteboard with this same format, but at first I didn't know the numbers I had to hit. I didn't know what numbers were realistic. I didn't know how many days. I didn't none of that. So I had to figure that out. I had to go through that learning curve. That was without a mentor. I had to figure out I had to figure out on my own, okay, I have to track stuff. Okay, numbers are important. Okay, I have to track what I do to in order to improve it. Like those are things I learned on my own before I got my first wholesale deal. And then I got my first wholesale. I started tracking, I started learning, reading, watching YouTube videos, and as time progressed, I got my first wholesale deal. Then I got lazy, complacent, but I got another one 3 months later. Then I think 6 to 8 months later, I got my third wholesale deal. And then like 4 months later after that, I got my fourth wholesale deal, which was honestly just as hard, if not harder, than my fucking first wholesale deal. The fourth wholesale deal I went through was just as hard, if not harder, than my first wholesale deal. Right. And then I moved out. So over the years, over that 2 year period, uh, it grew to this, to where now I have a whiteboard and now I know how many offers I need to make. 3 offers, 20 conversations, that's it, and 1 contract a week. At first, I was making 10 offers, right? And 10 conversations. But I was tracking it and I was able to look at my data and I was able to see why is 10 conversations and 10 offers not working? Why is that not working? Right? I used to have a dialer. I used to do all that and I used to track it and I figured out that it's about 3 30-minute offers with a particular sales process with 20 conversations which are clearly defined, and it doesn't have to be like those conversations. It gets to a point to where I figured out it's 5 conversations are new acquisition calls, 5 are follow-up calls, 5 could be cash buyer disposition calls, and 5 of them could be transaction coordinating calls, all with 20 different separate people, right? But they can be the people from before, right? It could be the same 20 people from yesterday. Well, technically not. 15 of them can, but 5 of them can't because of new acquisitions. Anyways, the point is, I had to learn all this stuff, guys, and I want you guys to take this learning curve and just see the importance. This took me years to do this, and you guys you should be learning it now. Track your numbers. Track your numbers. This is where it started. Like, look at this. This is another week, March 3rd through 9th. This is 2024. This is 2024. Look what I was doing 2024. March 2024. Uh, this is right before I made $100,000. Yeah, that's crazy. This is right before I made $100,000. Yep. So you could see, I'm tracking how many Zillow conversations I have, right? Because I want to know, right? So it started with there, and then I paid a mentor, and then it got to this, you know. Now I'm doing this, and now it's on a whole new level, right? So this is like August of 2024. Now we're in 2025. I'm on a whole new level now, right? So, but that's the main point. Uh, yeah, that's it. If you guys got any value out of this video, make sure to hit the like button, comment, subscribe. I'm dropping weekly videos about self-improvement, wholesale real estate, and just life in general. If you guys want to be a student, book a call with me by clicking the link below, but only if you're serious, right? And you want to get a wholesale deal and you're serious and you know that wholesaling is what you want to do, then book a call with me and I'll see if you're a good fit. Or if you want my free wholesaling course, just click the first link below. Peace.